What's up, word warriors? So, we have dedicated ourselves to writing our morning pages every day. We have decided what we want to write, who we want to write for, and most importantly, why we want to write. We have taken the time to work through our creative blocks, those imposed by others in our lives and those imposed by ourselves. And we have dedicated ourselves also to unleashing the genius within. I'm going to focus for the rest of this series on writing a book. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because first and foremost, that's what I know. I write books. And secondly, almost everyone that asks me about writing is trying to write a book, whether it's, or a story, you know, a short story or a novel. So this instructional is going to be geared mostly around that, and I think all writers of every style of writing will get something out of this. So hopefully you have, at this point, written a synopsis for the idea that you kind of have brewing in your mind. And this video is about taking that core idea and now building what I call a concept outline, so that you can take that outline and write a book. The concept outline that I have for the novel that I'm writing right now, this is just the character development. It's about 50 pages long. I'm not saying that yours needs to be that long. My point in telling you that is the more thought that you can put into planning the book before you actually sit down to write the book, the better the book is going to come out. I know there's probably a lot of you out there right now that are writers that have written maybe the first, 20 to 30 pages of this great idea that you have, and it just peters off because you don't really know where you're going with it, and you may even move on to the next project, so you never truly actualize that idea. I have piles of those. And so if that's you, this instructional is going to be really good for you. Your concept outline, basically what I want you to do with this is I want you to take the synopsis that you've written, so that little catchy, idea that you have, and I want you to dig deeper. What do I mean by that? Most of the time, your first idea, although it's a good idea, it's going to be very cliche. It's going to be your drawing on, and you can't help but do this. We all do it, so don't feel bad about it. But your idea is very similar to something that's already out there in movies or a book that you've read. Imagination is an interesting thing. The first thing that you pull out of the pool is really someone else's idea. And what you have to do is learn as a creator that when you skim the pool, you are going to pull someone else's idea that came from something you read when you were a kid or a teenager or an adult or saw as a movie. The trick is to sink deep within the pool of your own imagination and draw from the depths. Draw from the depths, because that's where all of the unique and original ideas come from. So your concept outline, that's all we're going to deal with today, is how do you do this? How do you sink down deep into your own imagination to take this good idea and turn it into a great idea, a fantastic idea? The first thing that you're going to want to do is write it out. You've got your synopsis. Now I want you to think of at least, at minimum, 3 to 4 different ways that you can illustrate that same concept in different ways. You may start, you've got your concept and you reverse everything that you wrote there. Maybe the drama coming from your antagonist standpoint is now coming from your protagonist standpoint. Flip-flop the idea. Keep it that simple. Then I want you to take it deeper and deeper and keep twisting. Keep turning the idea. At some point, you're going to hit that, what I call the vein of gold. Julia Cameron calls it the vein of gold. The author of The Artist's Way. And this is when you're really starting to get somewhere. You want to think of a multi-dimensional idea. Think of every great book or movie that you have seen. It wasn't just this one-dimensional idea. So when you're thinking of your concept, I want you to be thinking of the conflict, number one. Every great story must have really intense conflict. Now, a really great story is going to have internal conflict coming from your main character's point of view. And then also external conflict, i.e., you know, in the environment, in the situations that are arising. The more conflict that you can have in your idea, the more exciting, the more of a page turner it's going to be. No matter what kind of a reader or a writer you are, and first of all, you need to be a reader before you're going to be a writer. In order to keep the person turning the page, there's got to be a conflict going on, right? So you want to start thinking of that before you ever even write your first page. This is the way to write a really solid book. So take your synopsis, come up with, let's just say 3 to 5 different versions of that same synopsis, but I want you to come up with 3 to 5 different ways to tell that same story. So just rewrite your synopsis at first. You are going to know when you hit that one. It may be, you know, your 8th one. If you get done with that 5th one, and it's still kind of like, you know, what I want you to be looking for is, have I read this somewhere? Have I seen this somewhere else? You have to be brutally honest with yourself. I am saving you a ton of heartbreak here. I cannot tell you how many books, like full-length books I've written and mailed it to an agent and they were like, yeah, I've only seen this 20 times. So dig deep. Take the time, because writing that synopsis should not take you very long, okay? Writing a full-length novel does. And I don't want you to get discouraged, actually. I want to try to shortcut you through this process. Because if you have that calling to write, I want to help you get there. It's part of my mission. It's part of my purpose. Once you get your concept to where it needs to be, the next step is going to be our character development. And while you're writing the concept, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little preliminary to that. Your protagonist, your main character, and your antagonist, the opposing character, need to be very well thought out. But all of your secondary characters on the protagonist side and the antagonist side, because you should have groups of good characters and groups of bad characters, and then you have the leading force that you focus on in both arenas. They all need to be well thought out, and I've learned this the hard way. Your characters, you can't have these incredibly deep main protagonists and antagonists, and then all of your secondary characters are very one-dimensional. Nobody wants to read that. So For a well thought out book, you're going to need between 6 to 12. Their main characters. You need to know everything about them. You need to know how they operate, why they operate that way, and each one of these characters needs to serve a specific role in your story. There should be no main character featured in your story that doesn't have their own message to deliver to the reader. And they all need to contribute. There can be no repetition. They all have something different to offer and bring to the table. You should keep this in mind when you're writing your synopsis, when you are generating your alternate ideas. Get quiet. Let the genius come through. Focus first on what are you trying to say, who are you trying to say it to, and why. Why? What is your message? Then I want you to design a synopsis, a plot idea that illustrates that. The who, the why, the what. Generate a book from the setting, the environment, the construct of the book should be molded around your audience and why you're writing the story, the message behind the story. And then you build your characters from there, and I'll go more into that in the next video. Will be character development. So right now, twist it. You will sink deeper into that great idea that I know you already have. But let's make it better than a great idea. Make it a phenomenal one. Make it one that's really going to reach people, because that is the point of writing a story and then getting it published. I love you all very much, and I'm sorry that it took so long to make this, but hey, I've been so caught up writing, I haven't been able to make a video. I know you can appreciate that. So get working, because the next one's going to be about developing the characters for that phenomenal concept I know you're working on right now. Namaste.